Not long ago, I was speaking with someone who experienced a tragedy in his family. And the conversation was about certain books that are called classics, books that have been around for a long time. And I forget exactly which books we were talking about. But one of the things that this person said that stuck with me is he said, this classic literature, the literature that we were talking about, the classic poetry, the classic plays, the classic philosophical writings, these things don't make the tragedy go away. They don't take away the feelings of grief, but they do give you somewhere to go. That's what he said. That there are certain works of literature that he was able to turn to and to find, if not consolation, at least some comfort in knowing that someone else has experienced something like this. And somebody wrote something that has been identified by multiple generations as worth the time. So this is what we mean by classic texts. Texts that have stood the test of some time. Maybe it's just, more recent classic literature, we might call it, has been around for just 50, 60, 70 years. But there's other literature that's been around from ancient times. And this literature that's been around from ancient times, the works of Aristotle, for example, the Dhammapada, for example, the Hebrew scriptures, the Old Testament, the Christian scriptures, the New Testament, these are the kinds of texts that have been around for a very long time. And one generation after another has seen that they are valuable, that they are important, that they're meaningful, and that they're useful. One of the great tragedies of our modern life is that a lot of these ancient texts that have done so much to sustain the soul of our civilization, a lot of these ancient texts are being forgotten. And one of the great travesties is that so many universities are going along with this. So many universities are going along with a willful forgetfulness of the great documents that have done so much to feed the soul and the mind of this civilization. I was reminded of this morning. I was reminded of the importance of these classic texts this morning because I'm making this presentation at a time when a coronavirus pandemic is taking hold around the world. There's a great sense of anxiety, a great sense of uncertainty, news reports of people, a lot of people buying weapons, news reports of people hoarding water, hoarding other things from grocery stores. There's tremendous uncertainty. There's uncertainty related to questions of health related to the coronavirus, questions of how the medical system will stand up, questions about the economy, and not just here in the United States, but globally. And I think at the point of making this video, we're pretty early into this, and what's amazing is just a week ago how differently things looked, how much things have changed in a week. And we have some way to go, but there really are question marks hanging over it every day. And so I woke up this morning and I wrote in my journal, and I wrote about my sense of insecurity, wondering how long things can go like this before society becomes really unstable. It feels that things are very fragile. How long can things go like this before there's some kind of significant cultural break? And I felt some anxiety. I felt some concern. I felt that sense of sort of, insecurity that is becoming thick in the air. But then soon I was reminded of the importance of these classic texts. I was reminded of what this person I was talking to said, that these classic texts that have stood the test of time, they give us somewhere to go, and they can help us, and they are actually incredibly useful. So one example is this ancient Buddhist text, the Dhammapada. I'm not a Buddhist. I don't think I'll ever become a Buddhist, but I can see that this collection of ancient Buddhist writings, there's wisdom in it. There's stuff to learn from it. And so here's a passage I read from this text this morning. It says, guarding your speech, restrained in mind and body too, you should do no unskillful act. If we want to act with excellence, if we want to get through life with skill, well, here are a few things we should do. Restrain our minds guard our speech, and control our bodies, right? Purifying these three ways of action, you'll reach the path taught by the sages. The way of wisdom, Christians will agree with this. Guard your speech, restrain your mind, control your body. I focused especially on that phrase this morning, restrained in mind, because I could feel that in my own mind I was beginning to spin, right? It's sort of this anxiety, like where's society going? Where's this coronavirus going? What's going to happen to our economy, etc.? The mind is beginning to spin. And this ancient text reminds me, no, wait a second. No, that's not going to do anybody any good. If your mind goes spinning, that's not going to do anybody any good. Restrain it. Calm it down. What can you actually do? I can't do anything about coronavirus in Italy. I can't do anything about coronavirus in France. I can't do anything about coronavirus in Guatemala. I can't really do very much about coronavirus where I live. I can control myself. I have some power over what I do. I have some power over what I do in my immediate context. Focus on that. Restrain the mind. No one benefits if my mind goes spinning off in anxiety and worry. That's useful. I was so glad to have this place to go to be reminded of that. And that line reminded me of a line in Rudyard Kipling's famous poem, If, which is much more recent than the Dhammapada, but I still think something of a classic text. And the very beginning of the poem says, if you can keep your head about you when all others, if you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs, right? And if the situation continues, if there is one day after another of insecurity, of anxiety, people not knowing where things are going, then it's probably safe to assume that more and more people are in one way or another going to kind of lose it, right? Well, I want to make sure that I don't contribute to that, right? My life, my family's life, my community's life is not made better if I let my own mind sort of spin around things over which I don't have any, or around which I have, or concerning which I have zero control. So I want to keep my head. This was another great place that I had to go. It was so nice to have these resources that I could go to. And then I remembered this passage in the Gospel of John. Let not your heart be troubled, Jesus says. If you believe in God, believe also in me. Let's focus on that second part. However long we live on this planet, even if we have a perfect life, which is not possible, but even if we have a perfect life from beginning to end, it's over soon. Whatever follows this life is much, much longer than this life itself. So have confidence, have trust, have faith in God. And in the meantime, don't let your heart be troubled. Notice the implication is that there are troubling things out there, right? There are troubling things out there, but don't let your heart be troubled. Do the work that's involved in keeping your heart untroubled to the extent possible, right? Just like the Dhammapada says. It's very close what the Dhammapada says. In this case, we're focusing on the mind. Restrain the mind. Are there things out there, over which the mind can spin in anxiety and concern? Yeah, but restrain it, right? Are there things out there that can trouble the heart? Yeah, but calm it down. Calm it down. To the extent possible, let it go, right? No one benefits if I've got a troubled heart. No one benefits if my society is full of people who have troubled hearts. If my society is full of people who have unrestrained minds. And so don't let the heart be troubled to the extent possible. Let it go. Calm it down. Restrain the mind. Calm it down. Take a breath. Calm it down. I was reminded also this morning that Aristotle says that the mark of a prudent person is that he or she is able to deliberate rightly about what should be done in daily affairs. Now, Aristotle says that wisdom is knowing what's good for people generally. Prudence is knowing how to take that general knowledge and then to apply it to a particular situation. So a wise person knows what's good for humans generally. A prudent person knows how to take that wisdom and now apply it to particular situations, and that takes deliberation. What should I do in this particular situation? How should I respond in this particular situation? So when we talk about not letting the heart be troubled, calming it down, not letting the mind be unrestrained, calming it down, we're not talking about being passive and doing nothing. We need to do things. We need to be wise. We need to be prudent. We need to act. But we want to deliberate. What's the best way forward? What's the right thing to do? And the calmer our minds are, the calmer our hearts are, the better we'll deliberate. So how great to have this resource available to me, that I was able to consult and be reminded of this. Then I went to Thomas à Kempis, who said this: as long as you are in your mortal body, you're going to be subject to weariness and sadness of heart. That's life, right? And sometimes it's worse. And in some cultures, there's more of this than in others, right? But weariness comes. Sadness of heart comes. Anxiety comes. Things to be worried about come. And when this happens, Thomas à Kempis gives us some good advice. He says, when this happens, then here's my recommendation. A wise thing to do is to resort to humble and external tasks to restore yourself by good works. Here's how I translate that. When we're feeling worn down, when we're feeling sad, when we're feeling anxious, when we're feeling concerned, when the question marks seem to be over everything, and we feel that our minds are becoming unrestrained, we feel that our hearts are becoming troubled, right? One of the practical things we can do to help ourselves, in addition to just breathing and calming down and trying to let things go, is, I like Thomas Aquinas gives us practical advice: go do something useful, right? Restore yourself by good works. Do something helpful for someone else. You know, maybe trash is collected in the neighborhood. Pick it up. Maybe the neighbor needs some help. Help. In a small way. We're not talking about radically changing our lives. Someone at work in this situation needs some assistance. Provide the assistance. Somebody just needs encouragement. Provide encouragement. We can do small good works that help other people and restore ourselves at the same time. This is great advice. I was reminded this morning as I woke up in a certain state of mind. It was a state of mind that I would call anxious, worried, wondering where things are going, and not having any idea where things are going. And I wrote about that in my journal. I said, things feel very fragile. I wonder how long this can go before there's great social instability. And I don't know the answer to that question. But I do know that no one benefits if I let my own mind spin and spin and spin. No one benefits, including me, if I let my heart become troubled. And so I need to calm it down, right? I need to calm it down. And I need to remember Thomas à Kempis's good advice. Do helpful, useful things for other people. That's one way to do something good for others and to restore yourself. It was so nice this morning to have good, deep resources to go to remind me of these great bits of wisdom. And these are the kinds of things, as we walk through our daily lives, these are the kinds of things that can help us to get through our lives a little bit better and to make things better for our communities, for our families, and for ourselves.